Hello, so this is a video tutorial to help you in our Equimov webpage. Use the Equimaps interactive tool as usual. Click on the interface, and once the Stat Planet software is opened, you go to the central bar and go to the chapter of equity indicators called Equity Zones. So once you're in the equity zones, you will see all the time evolution from 1962 to 2012, and you will see here a number of just some numbers, right? How we've done this is we've classified countries in the world in 4 categories. The first category, which we coded number 1, is the category called deficit zone. This is the category which includes countries by any year whose GDP per capita is lower than the lowest of the GDP per capita of the 14 health, feasible and sustainable countries, which have been shifting or alternating Sri Lanka and Vietnam. So the average of both is the lower threshold, and below that absolute lower threshold of the equity zone, any country with GDP per capita below that we call deficit country or deficit zone. Now the second zone or the second category we call equity zone. That is between countries with GDP per capita between that lowest GDP per capita of the 14 health, feasible and sustainable countries, which we call the lower threshold, and the symmetric point, which is above the midpoint of the world's weighted average GDP per capita. So we've got the lowest, the midpoint, and a symmetric distance to the upper threshold of the equity zone. So that's the equity zone. The third category is called the surplus zone, and those are countries which GDP per capita is above that upper threshold, but below what we call the lower limit of the fourth category, which we call the excess accumulation zone. Now that excess accumulation threshold is defined by the GDP per capita above which all increases of the GDP per capita of the countries above that level, all the increases of that would be sufficient to satisfy the gap of the deficit countries. So that would be the first must to ethically redistribute resources and allow all countries to at least be in the equity zone and enable them to have the universal right to health. So this is how it looks. As usual, you will need to redefine a bit your legend if you want to have a more coherent or more pertinent distribution. Here, let's put in for instance, red here we are, the deficit zone below 1, but this should be below 2. This should be 3.5. So if you divide the zones in that fashion, red will include all the countries in the deficit zone, call it 1, and then orange will be the countries in the equity zone, this would be the surplus zone, and this would be the excess accumulation zone, right? So let's look at them from 1962 till now, and this is how it goes. How countries have been changing, how the red zone has been shifting, China out in the 90s, most of sub-Saharan Africa, and by year 2012, well, the deficit zone includes sub-Saharan Africa except some of the oil-producing countries and Southwest Africa, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, some of the Central Asian republics, Oman, Syria, Papua New Guinea, and Nicaragua. While the equity zone includes most of Latin America, with that exception of Latin America, Haiti, North Africa, former Soviet Union, Russia, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, China, Thailand, Indonesia, Southwest Africa. Now, the surplus zone is the Mediterranean, Czechoslovakia, Thailand, Arabian Peninsula, Oman, some of the Emirates. These are countries with no data. And Guyana. But the excess accumulation is Canada, United States, Central and North Europe, Japan, Australia, and of course some of the Arab Emirates here. So this is how it goes. You may also look at them in this fashion, for instance, if you put the bubble size of countries as total population, you will see here, and you go back to 1962, and you see how these countries have evolved since 1962. You'll see countries shifting between categories, and this will be very telling of how the world has been evolving and what proportion of the population remains in the deficit zone today, which is close to half of the population. What is the population in the equity zone, surplus countries, and excess accumulation countries. So I hope this will be of interest to you. You can also do scatter diagrams and relate with other indicators and see how they distribute, and choose a country and see where it is and how it's moved and so on. So I hope this is useful for you. You can use it for your studies, debates, and you help us improve it, and use it for a more ethical distribution of resources and the satisfaction of the universal right to health and more pertinent and human and fair development models. Thank you.